Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the juvenile justice system and three different proposed policy changes that the Coalition for Juvenile Justice proposed, specifically in 2023. These are also policy changes that the juvenile system has been trying to change and update and alleviate some of these issues for some time now. The three specific proposed policies that I'm going to talk about today are better prevention techniques for juvenile delinquents, more and also better rehabilitation services for these delinquents, and more ways to reduce the disparities within the juvenile justice system. First, better prevention techniques. I feel like that's kind of self-explanatory a little bit. Looking at why these crimes are happening in the first place and trying to figure out if it is nature, if it's nurture, if it's a mixture of both. Looking at the connections between either the juveniles themselves or the crimes would greatly help the number of crimes happening, period, and also the number of juveniles committing the crimes. All three of these techniques, might I add, would greatly reduce recidivism rates and the want or need to commit these crimes. Moving on to better and more rehabilitation techniques or services, in my experience working for the juvenile court system currently, I feel like we, in Indiana speaking, we are kind of limited to the number of rehabilitation services that we can offer juvenile delinquents. Right now, there are things like drug treatment homes. There are some foster families that take care of the juvenile delinquents. There are mental health facilities that kids are sent to. And the biggest one would be to put a child on probation or house arrest, to wear a monitor on their ankle. I don't think that locking a child up in their home for 3 to 6 months at a time with little to no connection to the outside world would help. I believe if we looked into again, the connection between the juveniles that are committing these crimes versus the crimes that are being committed, and really trying to open these kids up more to better things like home-based case management or better or more therapy services, things like that, we could really figure out what would work for them specifically, because rehabilitation, just like anything else, is not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. And if we were to really dive into what would help the kids specifically, then we could, again, probably prevent these crimes from happening in the first place, or in the future. Lastly, the number of disparities that are happening in the juvenile justice system right now is pretty alarming. Things like stereotyping, profiling, things like that don't need to be involved in juvenile justice. They happen every day. I've seen it firsthand working for the courts that this does happen. And I fully believe that sometimes different people like prosecutors or public defenders or law enforcement, things like that, I don't think that they realize that they're doing it sometimes. And all this does is hurt the children, and I feel like finding ways to alert these different types of officials and these people who are in charge of these children, finding ways to help them understand that these things are happening would, shine a light on these and further help prevent those from happening as well. The last point that I want to make is placing juveniles, for example, a group of juveniles together who are like-minded and have had similar experiences would help in the prevention and the rehabilitation, because that would show these kids that they're not alone. However, trying to find a way to do it while the children are still in the home, that is a big thing for these kids. Thank you.